to Go Big or Go Home with the Division Manager of Primary Residential Mortgage in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Now, here's the entrepreneur and mortgage extraordinaire himself, James Harper.
What would your mama say?
Go big or go home.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to this week's podcast of Go Big or Go Home. We are coming to you from our secret headquarters in beautiful Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm James Harper, and my goal is to help you discover who you really are and what you are meant to do in your next chapter of this thing called life. So, as I've always said in all my previous episodes, I want you to sit back and listen. And today, I actually want you to probably get a pen and paper. And listen to our very special guests for the next 45 minutes and think bigger and more exciting things for yourself. I believe that everything is possible if you look forward and not in the rear view mirror. That's one of my key things, and I always like to deposit my excuses at the front door, and I encourage all the listeners out there today to do the same thing. So keep an open mind. Really listen to some of the content that we're about to share with you today with this special guest. And if this episode doesn't move you and make you change your life in some form or fashion and help you, in what I say, get off the bench, then you're just in a static mode of life. You're not really in a dynamic state of mind or state of life. So listeners, ladies and gentlemen out there, please get your pen and paper, as I said. And let's get ready for this podcast. You're going to hear all kinds of nuggets that you can take away, that you can share with others, that you can motivate yourself in some form or fashion. And I never get tired of hearing this man. I go to him almost on a weekly or monthly basis, either through podcasting or personal phone calls, or his monthly coaching programs live, and he supported me in my business, and I really appreciate him being here today. I want to welcome Coach Burt to the show, Coach Micheal Burt to the show, and thanks for coming. Yay!
Yeah, man, glad to be here.
We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. You're a very busy man. You are literally coaching and promoting your program called Monster Producers all over the country. So literally either planes, trains, and automobiles all day, every day, promoting your message, your message about how to get people in a better state of mind, a better place. And some of the things I just kind of made note of, that you are a master motivator, not only in my eyes, but obviously really in the world. You're selling, you're promoting, you're advocating machine of this multi-million-dollar company and brand called Monster Producers. The name says it all, really. You've basically branded the legacy selling system within the Monster Producers, which I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about here later on. And what's really interesting about the Monster Producer program, and I know we'll deep dive into this in a little while, but you take young entry-level business-minded individuals to really seasoned entrepreneurs to even corporate teams in large speaking events. So it's really up and down the ladder of who you help today. So for all the listeners out there, if you're ever interested in learning more about Coach Micheal Burt and the Monster Producer program, this is not just for the seasoned entrepreneur. Am I correct there?
Yeah, I mean, my basic philosophy in life is simple. Everybody needs a good coach in their life. A good coach can take you to places you didn't even think you wanted to go to. So it doesn't matter if it was in my high school coaching days when I was a women's basketball coach, coaching those young ladies and how to win championships, or today coaching a new startup business that's just trying to figure it out, or coaching a $5 billion division of a company that's trying to get to $7 billion. The concepts are the same. It doesn't matter if I'm with a car dealership one day and a mortgage originator the next day and an insurance company the next day and retail store owners the next day. We all have to explain our services. We all have to go out and get customers. We all have to follow up. We all have to try to get referrals. And really, we all need to be people of interest that are attracting new opportunity to us. That's universal.
Absolutely. And so some of the other key highlights for Coach Burt is he's written several books, which you can go out and search the web. And what's your website?
CoachBurt.com.
CoachBurt.com. And he's written several books, as I mentioned, and worked with some big names like Grant Cardone, Brad Lee, Tim Story, and Dr. Kevin Elko, to name a few. And if you don't know who those players are or who those individuals are, certainly you can Google them and know that they're big time as well. He was also recently a keynote speaker at the National 10X Conference in Las Vegas. It was actually last year, correct, I believe, and really took over the stage. So that's some of the background of Coach Micheal Burt. We want to really dig into his history and how he didn't just wake up one day and be a multi-million-dollar company. He had to start with a vision, and he started with things that started really early in his childhood. And one of the things I talk about a lot about on this show, Coach, is people that are afraid to jump, that they're afraid to take that initial risk. They're afraid to get off the bench for fear of failing. Maybe they have failed. And I think you hear a lot of entrepreneurs out there today that have failed many times before they actually succeed. Some of them have succeeded and then failed and had the fortitude to get back up. So I always start off by let's go back. Let's go back in time. Let's go back and hear a little bit about how Coach Micheal Burt was as a kid. I always talk about some of the things I did, from selling cheese and sausage and being the top sales cheese and sausage student in my middle school to paper routes and all that sort of thing. And I really had a knack for wanting to make money and selling. And so tell us your story. Obviously, you started out in girls basketball coaching. I know you'll kind of get into that, but that really wasn't your passion in life. Tell us your story about how you started out in your childhood and what changed as you went through your...
Sure. I was raised by a single mother who had me when she was 16 years old. My dad was 18. She was 16. And they married for a year, I think primarily because my granddad told them they were going to get married. And they got divorced very quickly. And so I'm raised by a single mom. I got at that time, very little relationship with my father. And my mother was a worker. High pay drive, get up and go get it every day, right? Working 2 and 3 jobs. And Mom would take me down to the local baseball field where I would stay for hours and hours and hours. Now, that's very critical to the story because it was at that baseball field at 6 years old, a female baseball coach, which is really odd. Most of the coaches were men. And there was one woman named Mickey Vincent, and Mickey Vincent coached me. And I remember her, she basically tended to me. She fed me. She took care of me. She made sure I had what I needed because I would be down there for hours and hours and hours because it's like a babysitting service, right? Like Mom was working. It's a cheap babysitting service. But Mickey Vincent said to me, son, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and I'm 43 years old. So for me to remember this, it was a story of origin. Son, one of these days you're going to be a great coach. That's what she said to me at 6. Now, many years later, I said, why did you see that in me? If you study the concept of unique ability is typically detected very early in life. It is typically detected by other people. It is a natural birthday gift that you have, right? That maybe you have opened or not opened. I couldn't see that I was going to be a great coach, but she could. And she affirmed and validated that in me. Now, I asked her many years later, why did you see that at 6 years old? She said, you were always curious. You always showed up early. You always stayed late. You always asked questions. You're always coaching the other kids. Like, I knew you were going to be a coach. So that's the big revelation that I had at 6. At 15, I started coaching junior pro basketball.
But you're thinking in your mind at this point, I'm just going to be, a coach, like a coach, not necessarily a life coach or business coach. You're just thinking coach.
And I wouldn't even think of that at that time. Like I was just a kid.
Yeah.
But at 15, when I was a high school basketball player, my high school coach called me professor. He said, man, the way you think, you're constantly analyzing, you're studying. He said, you're the greatest student of the game that I've ever coached. And so at 15, I get a phone call from one of those Little League baseball coaches, and he said, hey, I'm coaching a junior pro basketball team. Will you help me coach this team? And I said, I would love to. So I got dressed up in a suit to coach junior pro basketball. You got to put this in context. I'm 15 years old. I'm coaching 9 to 12-year-old kids, and I look like Pat Riley, like all these other dads are coaching, and it's me, and I'm yelling and screaming and jumping up and down, and right. But I knew the second I started doing that at 15, that was what I was supposed to do. Okay, now I may have pumped gas at 16 years old to make some money, and I may have worked as a bank teller at 18 years old to make some money, but I knew my destiny was to be a coach. And that started out, James, as an athletic coach. So at 18 years old, I became an elementary basketball coach. That's where I really learned to sell. That was my first sales job, selling them on letting me have that job at 18. They paid me $199.50. I was the head coach at Woodbury Grammar School. Technically, I wasn't head coach because they couldn't let a kid be the head coach. So another guy was the head coach, but I really did all the coaching.
Yeah.
And we won a championship in my first year. So they paid me $199, and one of my principles is every day with your current customer is an interview for your next customer. Every day in your current job is an interview for your next job. People are watching, critiquing, evaluating. And so I coached that team like I was coaching in the NBA. At 19 years old, I get a phone call. This is where the referrals come in. And it was the head coach at Riverdale High School, which is a powerhouse in Tennessee. And he said, I've heard about you. I've heard you're this young little whippersnapper. Will you come down to Riverdale and be one of my assistant coaches? And I, being a 19-year-old, asked what any good 19-year-old would ask, which was, how much are you going to pay me to come down there? Like, I'm already making $199.50, man.
Yeah.
You may not even be able to afford me. And he laughed, and he's like, kid, I like your spunk. We're going to pay you $2,000. And he paid me $2,000, and I became an assistant coach at Riverdale at 19 while I was going to college at Middle Tennessee State University. So I'd go to college, I'd go to my job. I'd go to college, I'd go to my job. And I became this dude's right-hand man, right? Behind every great number one's a great number two. And I'm studying a guy named Stephen Covey who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that is very important to today because I coach people through principles, through timeless principles, through the whole person theory. I learned that between 18 and 25 years old.
So I'm going to stop you right there, and you made for all the listeners, this is a very key thing to write down and pay attention and put it in quotations. Story of origin. That's pretty powerful. Story of origin. What does that mean? What does that really mean? You kind of glossed over that very fast, but story of origin is very huge when you're trying to find out what's your highest and best use in life, right?
Yeah, when you get media coaching, like I've had media coaching from like some of the top media coaches in New York City. I'm talking to prepare me for a show I'm going to be on where 1 million people are watching it, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things they coach you on are what's called stories of origin. These are big moments in your life that are game changers for you.
Game changers, yes.
And you go back to those when you're telling stories. Like if I was speaking tonight to 10,000 people, you would hear me tell the same story I just told you. Raised by a single mom. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. My parents divorced. Right? Now, why would I say that? Because it connects to people. To all the people in the room raised by a single mom, to all the people that have divorced parents, to all the people that have had hardship in their life. I've already connected with their heart. So the story of origin are these big moments in your life, like me speaking at 10X to 10,000 people. That was a big part of my story. That was a key pivotal moment of my life.
So these stories of origin can be good, happy, sad.
Absolutely. It's just a key
tragic.
Moment. So everything I just told you is part of my story. At 6 years old, I had a revelation. At 15, I started coaching. At 18, I got my first job. At 19, I went to Riverdale, right? Who did I study from 18 to 25? Stephen Covey. What happened at 25? I wrote my first book. So when you're telling these stories, it's very important. Tie it into the concept of go big or go home. I think about the word courage. Courage is the willingness to confront uncertainty. It is the ability to do something that scares you to death. Anybody who's ever done anything big in the world has got a boatload of courage, right? Their whole motto is go big or go home. Mm-hmm. They will not go small. They will not allow themselves to play small. And so I was kind of building over the last 27 years, since I was 15, 28 years now, I've been building this courage and confidence and to what I have today. And I have a level of certainty about me that I know if you do what I'm telling you to do, you will produce at a higher frequency. There's no doubt in my mind. There's not one 1% of doubt that creeps into my mind when it comes to this.
All right. That's great, and that's awesome. But it probably wasn't always that way.
No.
It probably wasn't always that way. So we're going to still rewind back to when you were in your first coaching stint, and maybe you had a season that didn't go so well. Maybe you felt like you weren't motivating people the way that in your mind you felt like they should be motivating themselves, or getting the output that you wanted. And you probably questioned yourself a lot. You probably questioned yourself as to, man, am I just not delivering the right message? Am I not communicating properly? Is there something wrong with me? Why can't I get them to succeed the way I feel like they should be able to succeed, or what their own potential is? So you start having self-doubt creep in. And I realize, even as big as you are today, there's probably still days you wake up and, man, I'm a little uneasy with the way I'm doing something.
Sure.
Part of that's fear. Part of that's just,
That's right.
That little negative. One of our fellow friends always says, that little negative guy sitting on your shoulder.
That's right.
Just kind of barking in your ear. So what do you think? What do you think about when you were back in that time frame, when you felt kind of that way and that emotion?
Yeah, I think back to two moments. When I went to college at 18 years old, I was very insecure. I wore a baseball.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I wore a baseball hat. I sat on the back row. I came from a real small town, and I went from being like somebody in the small town to being nobody at a university. And I sat in the back row. I didn't talk to people. I didn't join any fraternities. I didn't talk to girls. Like, I was scared to death of everybody. And I was so.
Where do you think that came from?
I think it was because my little small town had never exposed me to something that big. I had never gone to a big city. I'd never been on an airplane. I'd never been traveled. Like, now I travel all over the world, right? But at that time, we grew up poor. We vacationed in the same place every year, which was Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We stayed at the same.
Nothing against Gatlinburg.
Listen, I've owned places in Gatlinburg. I get it. We stayed at the same freaking Best Western because it had a indoor swimming pool. And that was my life. It was like this, like I was in a little pond. So when I go to this university and there's 23,000 people there, man, I'm shy and nervous, and I sit on the back row, and I tried to play under the radar. Like, I was totally insecure. Now, in my coaching, I was confident. Like, I'd go coach, and I'd be like, man, I know what I'm doing. I've been coaching since I was 15, right? But in my personal life, my social life, I remember
you were an introvert.
I remember there was a girl named Summer Kirk that I wanted to ask out so badly, and I didn't have the guts. And one night, I finally got the courage to call her, and she answered the phone, and I hung up. And I would see her in class, and I'm like, Summer Kirk is so beautiful. She, but I was scared to death, James. So that's one moment. The second moment I tell you about is when I was 25 years old, and I fell in love with the person I thought I was supposed to marry. I bought an engagement ring. Before I gave her the engagement ring, she broke up with me, and I was devastated. And when I say devastated, clinically depressed, couldn't get out of bed, threw up every morning to start my day, had enormous amounts of guilt, because I thought I had created this problem. Like, I did something wrong. This is the woman I was supposed to marry. I've done something wrong to screw it up. And I harbored so much guilt of that. And that really wasn't what happened. She wasn't mature enough. She didn't want to get married. She wanted to be wild, right? So I went through this breakup and rejection. And, man, it was a low moment in my life. Now, the reason it's important for the person listening to this is because of that, I began to rebuild my confidence. I began to study confidence at a ridiculous level. I began to put it into a scientific formula, which would cause me to write the book Swag. I would have never written the book Swag if I hadn't gone through the breakup, if I hadn't lost all of my confidence. And at the end of the day, here's what you learn. Never place all of your confidence in another person's hands. Never allow another person to control your destiny.
Wow, that's good, because I think a lot of listeners out there, that might be one of their excuses today. When we want to deposit our excuses at the door, that's probably one of them. I would recommend that you deposit at the door right there. Is don't let your happiness, don't let your opportunity be limited because of someone else's. What would be the word?
Don't place your destiny in another person's hands.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
So I'm going to spin off of that right there into this is another nugget. here's another nugget from the show, and this also comes from some of Coach's training, and we're going to say that we're going to talk about this word called kryptonite.
Yeah.
Man, he brings that up in some of his coaching programs or training sessions. And so what just happened, what he just described with this bad breakup and engagement was his kryptonite. Mm-hmm. It was the rejection that he received from it, and how that was kryptonite from him being able to move forward until he realized and woke up one day that that's not going to be my kryptonite anymore. Mm-hmm. And so my kryptonite, one of them that I actually was going through some of my notes from a past session that you had, my kryptonite was I got cut from the basketball team in 10th grade, and I was devastated. I mean, I didn't think I could go to school. I was embarrassed. I mean, here's this first form of rejection. I'd never been cut, and I'd played basketball my whole entire life, and here I was being told I wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And I carried that all the way through in business to some extent. I would get to a certain point and then kind of quit and not want to go to that next level. Not necessarily quit, just not thinking there's even something higher and better, because that kryptonite would creep in there. What do you say to that word?
Well,
You've used that a lot.
Yeah, we all have kryptonite. Superman had kryptonite, right? Was it Lex Luthor?
They call me Superman now. I'm trying to save these loan deals.
Yeah.
Because I can put the puzzle together.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's ironic how my staff calls me Superman, because of when something goes wrong or it can't be put back together, I come in and try to save it.
Yeah.
And I've overcome that kryptonite.
Yeah.
So
it's just something that holds you back. You know, it's something that typically from your past that has happened, or you believed, or someone said to you that you're not good enough. It's a kryptonite. It's you're low on confidence, or you can't take action, or you don't have courage, or, you know, we all have that kryptonite. And if we recognize what it is, I think it's real important that we recognize what it is, right? And for me at that time in my life, my confidence was tied up in how that girl felt about me. Now, here's the problem with that. If your confidence is tied up in how another person feels about you, what if they don't feel good about you that day? What if you have a great day at work and nobody tells you did a great job? Mm-hmm. Should that affect your confidence? Like, what if I go out and crush it and I speak and a person doesn't like it? Does that mean I wasn't good? So I think what you got to start doing is you got to start working to self-satisfy yourself. You don't need the accolades or praise from other people for your worth. Your self-worth is not dependent on what another person thinks about you. Because when you start helping a lot of people, James, some are going to like you, some are not going to like you. So what? I don't care how good you are. I don't care how good the book you write is. I don't care how many people you've helped. I don't care how many lives you changed. Somebody is going to have a problem with you. So your confidence cannot be too high when people tell you how good you are. And your confidence can never get too low when people don't think you're that good. You got to stay steady with your confidence, man.
All right, so listeners out there, there's something else you need to write down. Some will, some won't. So what? Say that to yourself each and every day, no matter what the circumstance is that's bothering you. And some will, some won't. So what? That pertains to sales. That pertains to someone liking you, not liking you. That pertains to maybe something going on with your family, your career. Some will, some won't. So what? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit to our next topic here that we would like to get your words of wisdom and what were some of the risks that you took that failed?
You know,
and I want to hear. I don't even know this. So what are some of the risks that you took that failed and you had to bounce back?
So let's
Which
think.
is another key word.
Let's think about failure. Is I say we don't lose, we just learn.
Good.
Okay. Here's a risk that I took that hasn't worked out yet. A few years ago, I had a vision for building greatness factories. I felt like it was a vision from God. I felt like this is going to be part of my legacy.
By the way, the Greatness Factory is part of the Monster program.
That's correct. That's correct.
Which basically is the theory behind that is to have one central location mm-hmm. for all different disciplines of career and people to be able to come and network and share energy together.
That's right.
Right.
So if we're in Hendersonville, Tennessee, when a person makes a decision to become great in any area of their life, body, mind, heart, or spirit, see, that's a big anchor to the Greatness Factory. That's part of my philosophy. So if they want to get better for the body, there's a gym there. If they want to get better for the mind, there's training. There's training and coaching. If they want to get better for the heart, there's places to network, relationship. If they want to get better for the spirit, there's a spiritual piece to it. So, I had this vision for the Greatness Factory, and I had it clear vision. This is what you're supposed to do. So I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and I got one of the top architects in Nashville that had designed a lot of the really cool restaurants in Nashville. I spent $90,000 on the plans. This is before we built one thing, and that's in cash, by the way. You don't borrow. Yeah. You don't borrow that money. That's $90,000 out of my pocket to do this, and I had no idea what it was going to cost. They kept designing it and just redesigning it, and this. The next thing you know, it's 15 here and it's 50, 60 here. Hey, these engineers, they. So the next thing you know, I spent $90,000 on this thing before I even have a piece of land to build it on. So then I go buy a $500,000 piece of land to build it on. Then I take this cool architectural piece that is so unique. It's like it's from another planet. Like the design of the building. It's like New York City. It's like Chicago. It's like way more progressive than even Nashville. And I take it to my city in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and the city planning commission goes, there is no way we're ever going to pass a building that looks like that. It is so much more advanced. They said it's the most progressive set of plans they had ever seen in the city of Murfreesboro.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So they wouldn't pass it. So they're like, you got to modify it. You got to redesign it. And I'm like, man, I've already spent $90,000 designing this. Like, I'm not redesigning it. The whole purpose of it's not called the Mediocre Factory or the Complacency Factory. It's like, this is a place that people who want to be great are going to come to. And it's going to be the best people in every city, and there's going to be millions of dollars of exchange and energy, and people are going to fly in from all over the world to see this place. And they said, we don't care, we want it to look like everything else in Murfreesboro. You got to dumb it down, which is stupid. For all the people listening, it's stupid. You can't go big if everything you're doing is about looking like everybody else.
That's right.
So what I did is, I still own the land, I still have the plans, and I put those on hold for a couple of years while I've been trying to figure out some things. Is Murfreesboro, is my home city progressive enough for this concept? Or does it need to only be in big cities? Nashville, Chicago, New York City, Miami, LA. What if we added a kids component to it? Because I got these programs for kids. Could that help generate data? Generate money. Do I need to bet on people wanting to be great? Because 9 out of 10 people may not want to be great. I may sell more tickets to the Complacency Factory than the Greatness Factory. Now, my point is that a failure? A lot of people would look at that and go, man, Coach, you spent $100,000, then you bought a $500,000 note that I'm paying on every month.
Still.
And I haven't generated a dollar. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to raise the money, James, correctly. Mm-hmm. Now I'm dealing with bigger players, and they're like, we could raise $3.5 million in a week if you just packaged it up correctly. Like, I was trying to raise the money for my friends.
Right.
Like, I was going to my friends and saying, hey, would you like to give $100,000 to this? And it's a 6 or 7% return. You'd own 4% equity in the building. And some of my friends said, yeah, I'll give you $100,000.
Yeah.
But this guy that I've been working with out of Houston, Texas, is like, look, you could raise a $3.5 million, put none of your own money in. You just don't know how to do it. That's what I know how to do, right? And so when you say what is a big failure, I don't consider that a failure. It just hasn't come to fruition yet. And I've learned a lot through that process. Like I should have sat down with people and talked about what can I pass through the city. I should have sat down with builders and said, how much is it going to cost for me to build this? Like, I didn't know to do all those things.
Well, a very similar story is, for any of those that have followed Joel Osteen, when he went to buy the Houston arena, all the city planners and what have you they thought it would never work there to have a church that big that would fill up an arena, and not to mention all the renovations that would have to take place to some extent to be able to have that kind of concept there. And look at him today. Mm-hmm. He kept being told no time and time and time again. He failed or got rejected several times in his life, and he just had this vision. He had this vision that was going to be his church. Mm-hmm. And I believe that'll happen to you, my friend. It's just a matter of time and then God's plan when it's going to happen. So that's a good story. So what one of the things I want to kind of hit on is every day a lot of people wake up and they're in the defensive mode instead of the offensive mode. You have another session on just this topic alone. But to all the listeners, what are some of the things that they can do to be in an offensive state versus a defensive state? I love to hear you share some of the funny stories of how people kind of wake up and walk into their job and, oh no, what's going to happen now? What's going to come at me? So I'll let you take it from there.
Most people play defense in their lives, meaning they don't have a plan. They don't they don't spend any time on the weekend thinking about what they're going to manifest this week. They don't have a strategy. They haven't mental mapped, which is what I do a lot on Sundays. They really come into the day in a reactive mindset.
Yeah, reactive. Yeah.
And so they end up not getting the results they want. They blame it on bad luck, and they're mad at everybody else. When the reality is, all things are created twice, first mentally, then physically. You go there in the mind before you go there in the body, meaning you got to go there in the mind first. You got to get up and get ready. So I'm big on the planning, mental mapping, coming into every day with a hit list and a farm club and a top 25. And I used to have a rule when I was a basketball coach that we wanted to get the ball to the midline in less than 2.3 seconds. So that means we're always on offense. We're always pushing. We're always coming at you. Then I started my business, and I noticed that most people play complete defense. They don't think about their work at all on the weekend. Basically, here's my philosophy. And I'm not trying to offend anybody that listens to the show, but I coach a lot of people. Low-performance people spend the weekends escaping from their lives. And I know because from 20 to 30 minutes, I was a low-performance person. Drank too much, stayed out too late, hung over the weekend, come into Monday with no plan. And I was still considered a high-performance person, but knowing what I know today, I wasn't a high-performance person. Now I spend Saturdays rejuvenating, restoring, reading, listening to podcasts, studying successful people. That's a hobby to me. Then I come into Monday, then I spend about 2 to 4 hours every Sunday preparing for my week. I completely map out my week. What am I doing on what days? I'm fanatical about my time and energy. I come into the day on offense. Now I come into the weeks rejuvenated, on fire, because I want to be a high-performance person. And high-performance people spend their weekends differently than low-performance people. Now, that doesn't mean that high-performance people don't have any fun, because tomorrow night, so Friday night, I'm going to the Luke Combs concert, and trust me, I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't get to have as much fun as I used to, because now I've got something scheduled every day of my life. I got to be somewhere coaching somebody. So every now and then, coach likes to have just a little bit of fun. But fun is just one small component to my life. I'm really very interested in impact. I'm really very interested in how many people I can help on planet Earth. And so because of that, I want to be in an offensive position. I don't want any regret. I don't want to get 20 years. Like, let's say I don't build the Greatness Factory for whatever reason. What happens 20 years from today when I regret it? And I go, man, I knew that was a vision. I believe God gave me that vision, and I ignored it. And that was part of my legacy, but I didn't do it because I didn't have the courage to do it. Or I was going to have to raise some capital to do it. Or the city told me no the first time. Like, that ain't going big. I mean, that's going home, you know?
That's right.
So I think that's what you got to think. If you're going to play offense in life, you wake up with purpose and intention, and you attack like a cheetah attacks. They don't wait. When they wake up in the morning, they know what they're going to get.
They go 0 to 60 pretty quick.
And they go get it. And that's the kind of people I'm coaching. I'm trying to get them in an offensive position. And
so I'm a big believer that a lot of listeners out there that have that cheetah mentality, but it's suppressed.
Oh, yeah.
It's suppressed in some way, because maybe it is their relationship. Maybe it is their financial situation. Maybe it's their job. You know, maybe they're in a toxic job or something that just doesn't help them get out of that funk. So how do you get that cheetah out of someone to help them
it's
get
a great
going?
Question. Maybe the best question you've asked me so far.
Oh, man, wow.
That's a good question.
Wow.
Let
me see if I can keep that up.
We're going to refer to that as prey drive. The cheetah inside of a person I refer to as prey drive. Prey drive, P-R-E-Y, drive, is an instinctual ability to see something with the eyes, optically, or in the mind, and to have the courage to go get it.
The courage.
Animals have prey drive. Dogs have prey drive. Cheetahs have prey drive. They have this ability to see it and attack. Okay? Well, humans have this. I believe, after coaching thousands of people, it is inside every one of us to want to go get something. We are hardwired to take dominion, to go get it. Well, what happens is, I think about my 7-year-old daughter. When you tell my daughter no to something, she is relentless in coming at you in different ways. Like she doesn't accept no. You tell her no, and it's on. She's going to try for the next hour in every angle she can get to get it. So here's what happens. But what happens is you start telling kids, slow down, be careful. Like don't touch. You want all the other kids to like you. Don't be aggressive. Like, because you got to fit in. Our school systems tell the kids this. Don't stand out, fit in. What's the city of Murfreesboro telling me? Fit in, don't stand out. So what happens is the prey drive is kind of beat out of us. Okay? What I want to do is reactivate. And if you ask me to sum up, Coach Burt, what out of everything you do, what is the number one thing you're known for? What do you want to be known for? I want to be known as the number one activator of prey drive in the world. Meaning, when people see me speak or they hear me, it activates this drive in them to want to go get something, to want to get better, to want to expand. It's a curiosity, right? It's an awakening. Tommy Davidson was on your show,
yes.
Who's a guy I coach.
Yes,
and when I started coaching him, he didn't have any prey drive. He was goofing off, drinking beer all the time, chasing women.
He did talk about that.
He was doing 45 real estate deals a year, making $70,000 or $80,000, and through the coaching, his prey drive was activated. His curiosity. He's like, man, maybe I can play at a higher level, and he started learning and studying and skilling up. That dude is now doing almost more deals in a month than he did a whole year when I first started him. He's going to do 160 deals. He just passed over $40 million of production. Some months he's making over $100,000 himself personally. And he would tell you, when you say, what did Coach Burt do for you? I activated his prey drive.
It wasn't like there was any secret sauce.
No, there are. I say there's 5 activators of prey drive. Competition is an activator of prey drive. Mm-hmm. Fear of loss is an activator of prey drive. Environment can be an activator of prey drive. Inspired by others can be an activator of prey drive. These are all activators of prey drive when you're thinking about this, okay? Compensation for some people is an activator of prey drive. Embarrassment is an activator of prey drive. If you watch the Garth Brooks special, I don't know if anybody has watched this, in the studio, but if you haven't watched this new documentary about Garth Brooks, it's on A&E, and it basically tells the whole Garth Brooks story. Sold over 100 million albums. Well, when Garth Brooks was a little baby star in Oklahoma, his fans paid for him to come to Nashville to be a big star. And he came to Nashville, and he took one meeting, and in that one meeting, they told him, boy, you just need to go back to Oklahoma. And he got in his truck and drove all the way back to Oklahoma. In 24 hours, he quit in less than 24 hours on his dream. So he goes home to his dad, and his dad says something really, really hard to him. He wouldn't even repeat in the interview what his dad said to him. He said he wasn't trying to be mean, but what he said to me lit a fire in me like you can't imagine. Now, I know from being a coach, what his dad did was activate that prey drive. And his dad probably said, son, I can't believe you don't have any more guts than that. Did I raise you to quit within 24 hours? Like that one comment. So here's my point to you. Sometimes you hear something from another person and boom, it hits you. And it's like it activated my drive.
Yeah, he's never looked back, for sure. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, there's so much that we could go into just on prey drive itself. And I agree, Coach. I mean, that is just one thing that I believe that everybody has within themselves that you just have to be able to activate it. Something has to trigger it, and sometimes getting to that point of where it will trigger is the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't necessarily do it.
No.
But you can just plant those seeds of what might activate it or what might bring it to light. So let's talk about being a person of interest now. Mm-hmm. This is you wrote a book on this, just on this topic alone, a person of interest. So now as you start jumping as you've now jumped into something that you really want to do and you're passionate about, whether that's being artistic, doing art, to starting a small boutique shop, to a manufacturing plant, or something in sales, real estate, whatever. Now we're often going with our business, but we don't know really how to brand ourselves and promote ourselves. This is where person of interest comes along, and maybe you can just highlight some things about being a person of interest.
Well, once you have a concept or idea, it may be the greatest concept in the world. You may be the best in the world at it. But if nobody,
some of them suck.
But some of them do suck. Yeah. And as Dabo Swinney always said, you got to suck the sour to get to the sweet sometimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good it is if nobody knows who you are. Okay? And becoming a person of interest. Let's say I come over to Hendersonville, Tennessee. I don't live here. I don't spend a lot of time here. I roll into town and teach one day. I spend very little time and no money in this market. Mm-hmm. You follow me? Mm-hmm. So you could walk around this mall area and say, do you know who Coach Micheal Burt is? And people can go, no, I have no idea who he is. What's the likelihood of them buying any of my books? What's the likelihood of them coming to my coaching program? What's the likelihood of me ever exchanging any money with them because they don't know me? Person of interest is about becoming known in the world. If you think of being famous, right? Mm-hmm. Like I was supposed to interview this girl the other day who was on the show Billions, and she was in Mama's House too. She was a star, right? And when I was looking at her bio, I'm like, dang, this chick is somebody, right? Like they sent me her bio. I didn't know how big she was. Like she was in the show Billions, which is one of my favorite shows, and at the minute that I knew she was on those shows, her person of interest score did what?
Went up.
Boom.
It went up.
She's famous.
Yeah.
I'm about to interview a famous person. When a person comes to Nashville and they're singing on Broadway and they want to be a big star, the problem is they're not famous. Now, when they become famous, they go from making $400 a night to $4 million a night. Mm-hmm. And here's the cool part. It's literally just 100 yards away.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing at Legends or Tootsie's or any of those places, literally, when you become famous, you just walk across the street and play at Bridgestone Arena. And what you make in a night is so much more ridiculous. It's the same person singing the same songs. But what's different? Now they're famous. So the question becomes, how do you become famous? How do you become known? How do you become celebrated? In a world of Instagram today, in a world of LinkedIn, in a world of Facebook, being famous is not you have to be in the movies anymore. Being famous is how many people feel connected to you.
Feel connected, right.
If you follow me on Instagram and you follow my whole life and you feel connected to me, then in some ways I am a person of interest to you. Now, at some point, if you like enough of my Instagram and enough of my videos, you're going to buy something from me. You're going to say, I'm going to buy his book. I'm going to go to his workshop. I'm going to fly on a plane with him, whatever, right? So person of interest is kind of this concept of I want to become a known entity in the world. Nobody's done this better than Trump. Look at what Trump, part of the reason Trump became elected for president is 96% of Americans knew who he was.
That's right.
I look at these candidates that are running
whether you liked him or not.
Whether you liked him or not, doesn't matter. So when I look at these candidates now for president, I don't even know half of them. I don't know their names. I don't know where they're from. They're not famous for anything. So what happens is at the end of the day, the people who get the most attention typically win. So that's the concept.
And not to get political, but Donald Trump does not care.
No.
Whether you like him or not. He's just becoming a person of interest.
He actually knows, and he's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
He's been polarizing for years. So here's the point. He knows that having an opinion is better than having no opinion. And when you have a opinion, some people are not going to like it. So, but who cares when you don't even have one? So he picks a strong stance. He puts it out there. He knows 50% of the people are going to be against it, 50% are going to be for it. But here's what he knows. Every news channel every day is talking about Donald Trump.
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick, because you say, you've brought this up before in one of the events, where you have said one of the things I learned about social media is I thought everybody liked me.
Yeah.
And then when I have 5,000 people that like me, but then I have that one person that gives me some negative comments or whatever, I had to get used to that.
Yeah. I think when everybody likes you, it's a pretty good indicator you're not helping enough people. Your friends don't really say mean things to you.
Right.
You only start seeing mean things. Like now, we've had one of my videos that maybe got 200,000 or 300,000 views, and man, some of the comments. They talked about me, my wife, my kid, my accent, my lack of hair, you know how tall I was.
Unrelated to the topic.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the topic. like just mean. You know what I'm saying? Just pure meanness. Well, you don't see that when you have a video that has 4 views on it. Right? You see it when you have a video that has 200,000. And I look at these country music. We could pull up any country music video right now that's got 30 million views. And there's probably 30 or 40,000 people that said, I don't like it. What do you care when you got 30 million? Mm-hmm. What do you care that, like, it seems like a big number, like 26,000 people didn't like it? Well, 30 million people watched it. Mm-hmm. So who cares? And I think this is
some will, some
this
what?
is part of going big.
Yep.
Part of going big is leaving behind your little thinking. You can't go big if little's got you.
You can't have a poor man's mentality.
That's right.
Well, good. Well, one thing I just want to leave with, and this is the last thing, and we could sit here and talk for a long time and just really go deep and go big or go home. But one other key thing that I had on my notes today was conviction. And without it, you will basically contract or withdraw or just never move forward. So how do you explain conviction to somebody as it relates to a prey drive, and how it ties into becoming a person of interest? Man, this is going to be a good question.
Yeah.
And how you can be on the offense versus defense. Isn't conviction really the start of it all?
Okay, so I want you to think of conviction as a deep-seated belief that you have, which propels you to take action. So the question becomes, where does the conviction come from? It comes from this cycle. First, you have a big revelation. Revelation is a dramatic moment in your life. 6 years old, dramatic moment. 15 years old, dramatic moment. Breakdown at 25 years old, dramatic moment, right? First time I crossed over $1 million of revenue, dramatic moment. Now, you have this big revelation. It's like, boom, aha, okay. Because of my revelation, I now have conviction. Because the revelation's so deep, right? Revelation, something has been revealed to me that I didn't know. Now I know it. Now I believe it.
Revelation or conviction then becomes confidence.
That's right. And conviction becomes courage, and conviction becomes confidence, and conviction activates prey drive, and conviction makes you want to be a person of interest. And conviction, like when you have conviction, you can sell it. That's really what I'm selling to people. I am selling a set of convictions that with a coach in your life, you're always, not some of the time, you're always going to perform at a higher level if you got a good coach, right? And so because of that conviction, you ask, why is it so deep in me? Because of the revelation I had at 6 years old. That's 37 years ago. I had this revelation that a good coach can change your life. Because that's what Mickey Vincent did for me.
That's awesome. Well, Coach Micheal Burt, we appreciate you being in the studio today. It's always a pleasure. I know your time's very valuable.
Was it the best interview you've ever done? I'm going to ask the crowd. Right?
Well, it is the best. It is the best.
Kidding.
It's going to be hard to bring in somebody bigger and better with more insight than you have. And, man, not only as a coach but as a friend, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. It's very valuable to me. And so a quick plug here, a shameless plug for the Monster Producers. Let's go ahead and say
absolutely.
What it is.
Well, I would say likewise to you. James Harper's been in our coaching program now for 2 years. He's at one of the higher levels of our coaching program. And I think when you're looking at who's coaching you, you need to go to people that they've coached. Right? Mm-hmm. You need to ask James. You need to ask people Tommy Davidson, that's making more money than he's ever made. You need to ask
Jason
people.
Duncan was on the show.
Jason Duncan. You need to ask people that I have coached. What did Coach Burt do for you? Right? Like, don't let me sell you. I believe in it. But just look at the people I'm coaching and what they're doing in the world. And most of the ones that are showing up and getting coached are doing big things, okay? So CoachBurt.com, you can go there. Monster Producer is the monthly coaching program. It's on a Christmas promotion right now. It's the perfect time to get in. It's $1,497 for a whole year of coaching. That's a lot of coaching. And if you don't make all that money back, I'll give all your money back because that's how confident I am in it.
And I'm sure if you referenced Go Big or Go Home when you called, if the promotion is off at that point, I'm sure you will honor that.
I would honor that.
Awesome. All right, so thank you, everyone, for joining the show today. We hope that you are inspired to do something more with your life that brings you happiness and joy. Let us know how awesome we are by leaving us a 5-star review. And so we can keep this content coming your way. Like us on Facebook at Go Big or Go Home with James Harper. Our podcast can be seen on all podcast platforms and also on our website at www.nashvillemortgagelenders.com. Do what your mama said, go big or go home. This is James Harper. Have a great week.
Primary Residential Mortgage, Inc., NMLS 3094. James Harper, Division Manager, Primary Residential Mortgage, Hendersonville, Tennessee. NMLS 71317-131 Saundersville Road, Suite 140, Hendersonville, Tennessee 37075. Primary Residential Mortgage, Inc. is an equal housing lender. Some products and services may not be available in all states. Credit and collateral are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. Programs, rates, terms, and conditions are subject to change and are subject to borrower's qualification, 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 to borrower's qualification.